along the Ha Giang Loop. You do hours and hours and hours of riding, maybe 9 till 4, 9 till 5. So I recently went to Vietnam, and along that trip I did the Ha Giang Loop, and this by far was one of the best things I did on the entire trip. And today I want to break down exactly how to go about booking it, what to expect. Should you get an easy rider? Should you ride yourself? What did I do? What did I learn? And going forward, if I were to do it again, what would I do differently? So in essence, if you're looking to go to Vietnam and take on this trip, which I think is the highlight of the north side of Vietnam, you're definitely going to want to stick around and watch this. I'm currently in Portugal, but obviously from the UK, if you can't tell. And definitely subscribe down below if you want some more Vietnam content. But for a bit of perspective, we spent a few days in Hanoi and in the north, and then we were like, right, let's go on the Ha Giang Loop. And there was 5 different lads on this trip, lads, classic. And obviously we were unsure what the kind of sitch was with it, but we knew we wanted to do the loop. So we went to our hostel, and we stayed in a very nice hostel in Hanoi, and pretty much everything is super cheap out there. So you get lovely luxury hostels for very cheap. And they had this board up saying, Ha Giang Loop, book with us, whatever. They had literally every activity there, so you could book via them. And after doing a bit of research, we looked and saw that the prices across the board are relatively similar. There's no real rip-off sort of thing around the good hostels. And so we decided that we would book via the hostel. Stage 1, that is how we booked it. We didn't do it via Get Your Guide or anything like that. Booking in advance, booking online, you're probably going to find a slightly better deal if you book direct or out there. How do we decide what one to do? That's another good point. So we booked via the hostel because we thought that was safe, that was easy. They picked us up direct from the hostel, so no faff. And then pretty much we decided what one to do out of Jasmine, tours, Ha Giang Loop, and a few others, because we heard via random chit chatter that Jasmine was the funner one and the more not party-ish one, but had a bit more going. Yeah, party-ish one basically. So we heard that was the sort of sitch with the Jasmine tours for the Ha Giang Loop. So we decided to go onto that one. So we booked on, I think it was around about 100 and high hundreds in terms of pounds. So early 200 euros-ish. It was standard. I can't exactly remember the price. But what did we decide to book? Well, there's various different days, and later on I'm going to show you exactly the photos, what it was like, and all of the good stuff. But for now, I'll just give you the framework. We decided to book 3 nights, 4 days on the Ha Giang Loop. We decided to do self-riding as well, so we didn't have an easy rider. An easy rider is somebody that basically rides in front of you and you sit on the back like this and ride along with them. We decided to ride the bikes ourselves. I'll get on to licenses and how it works very soon as well. Because this is pretty interesting. So we decided to ride ourselves. We decided to do 4 days, 3 nights, because we wanted to see pretty much everything, and typically the best stuff to see is on the final day. Very well played. So we booked on, we paid the money, happy days. The next day, 7 o'clock, we got a transfer from our hostel in Hanoi, and it was taking us up towards the north to the Ha Giang Loop. Now this is where I'm going to bring out some lovely photos of the trip. So in the morning of, we got a transfer from our hostel all the way over to the Ha Giang Loop. So pretty much we decided to upgrade our bus. We got a bit nicer, luxurious bus for a few extra pounds. And here you can see on screen the boys laying back, relaxing, kicking back, enjoying what we have to offer, what we had on offer. There's various different people on our bus. Many of them are not going to the same tour as us. There's a bus that takes Ha Giang Loop tours for different companies up towards the north. So everybody on that bus got off before us. Shortly after we arrived, after a bit of a bumpy journey up on that lovely road, so there were no seatbelts either, so we were all holding on for dear life at certain points, but it wasn't that bad. So we arrived, and then there was a small stop on the way to get some dinner. The dinner at the motorbike cafes are very interesting. A few friends were worried about getting some sort of food poisoning, but sometimes in Vietnam you just go, it is what it is. There was even the pigs and the livestock out the back, and then whatever. It's interesting food. You know how it is when you travel. And then when we arrived that night, after getting the sleeper bus from Hanoi up to the Ha Giang Loop, we arrived at this massive complex in the dark, and it was quite a long journey, hence why we decided to go in the afternoon, arrive at night and then sleep. But you basically stay in a hostel. It's a massive complex hostel, loads of grounds, and you just kind of mingle and then wake up the next day. And that, as you'll see right here, and I'll rotate the phone for this one, this is when if you're self-riding, after your brief, you then get the bikes. Now, depending on if you've got an easy rider, then you won't be needed or required to do testing like we're doing right here. You just kind of basically wait for your easy rider, high five, meet them, pack your bags, and start getting ready to ride with them. But for us, we had to make sure, and they had to make sure that we could ride the moped, do a turn, and that we would be relatively safe, I'd say. So the helmets were there, to be honest, they were quite cracked and whatever. You can have and get extra knee pads and arm pads for a deposit. I did, so if I swipe across here, this is us signing away our lives and whatever. Just, I think it says something like if you crash or you're liable to a certain extent or they're not responsible for anything. Pretty standard behavior, but I picked up some extra knee pads, some extra precautionary items because I was like, I want to make sure I'm safe. And here you're going to see this cool video actually. I say cool. Me and Jacob, the two lads that actually got the proper gear, slow-mo walking with what was our attire for the trip. So again, safety is a lot more lenient here in Vietnam than it is in the likes of the UK and whatever, but we opted to fully gear up. And on your CBT, you always ride in boots and proper gear, but this is pretty relaxed. When it comes to the briefing, now if you go, you'll understand, but the briefing I'd say was pretty fun. The majority of people have an easy rider that has a full-on license. If you're self-riding, then, technically, you're meant to have a CBT license. Otherwise, you run a risk of getting a fine. But if you haven't got one, chat to the tour provider. I'm not going to give anything away here, but chat to the tour provider and pretty much, so yeah, just chat to them in that sense. I've got a CBT, but I know that wasn't the case for everybody, and some people like to self-ride regardless of, but it comes a bit more complicated because if you don't have a CBT, then sometimes you can't get as good of insurance, and it does get pretty dangerous, and we're going to come on to the danger a bit later on, but there were a few sketchy moments, and you have to be a competent bike rider, I'd say, to do a tour like this, so making sure you are competent is key. But yeah, anyway, so we geared up, everyone's very happy, very chilling, not chilling, very excited, whatever. So you get your gear, you get your bike, you get your bag, and then you basically, after testing out the bikes, go fill up some petrol, strap on your bag to the back if you're riding yourself, and then you've got your whole bike to yourself. If you've got an easy rider, then you're pretty much, the reason why I don't like easy riding is especially if you're quite big, you're going to be on the back of the bike, somebody's going to be in front of you, and you're going to be holding on for dear life, and for me it gets a bit uncomfortable. I did it a bit when we were passing certain checkpoints, but it's like, I like the freedom and the fun was the control and the sort of thrill of riding the bike myself. People still love it though if you do have an easy rider, and you obviously have that more stability and control in terms of, they ride a lot, they have bigger bikes, and you make a friend. It's a bit more expensive as well to have an easy rider because you're paying for a whole entire person to come with you. But still, two different options, various different people like different things. I think for me though, riding myself made the trip, but there were certain people I know who just wouldn't feel comfortable doing so. And I know this is a very, very deep dive into the Ha Giang Loop, to be fair. And most definitely worth going. So then we stop off at various viewpoints on different days along the Ha Giang Loop. You do hours and hours and hours of riding, maybe 9 till 4, 9 till 5, and then you come to a hostel at the end of the day or a nice stay and you sleep there. I think one day we had a hostel experience. No, every day was sort of hostel. I know some groups sleep on mattresses on the floor, but my group, we stayed in hostels and had our own beds. One was a homestay, one was a lovely sort of garden, one was a hotel. So 3 different stays, 3 different places. And I say hotel like a hostel hotel. But along the days you are looking at all of these different viewpoints that are pretty stunning. You get to go to some caves as well. So you kind of ride, and this is an example of the riding, you ride along these sometimes sketchy roads where if you lost control, you're flying straight off the edge of the mountain. Sometimes there'll be rocks and rubble, which can be quite slippy. Sometimes massive lorries oncoming as well, so you're diving down the inside, and you're absolutely fine. You just have to be confident and control it. But if you're very nervous, there would be certain points where I go, or you just pray and have faith. But some people say it's insanely dangerous, and I think areas is dangerous, but it's not insanely dangerous. But of course, it really depends on yourself. You'll see my bike my bag on the back of my bike there. It's kind of strapped in. Me wearing my knee pads and just kind of riding along there. You get up to some quite decent speeds as well. And of course, what you pay for at the start, you get all of your food, your accommodation, and your fuel, all included in that price as well. So whatever you pay is like 3 nights stay, 4 nights of food. You stop off for lunch, there's food pre-planned, staying for dinner, and so on, and you all eat collectively as one big group, and you have subgroups within that group, and you kind of go around in that way. Some other lovely footage of just riding along here. Connor was in our group, nice guy. He was fantastic at riding, and so he would just kind of film, and I'll be like, well, bro, I need to focus on the road. If you're self-riding, you have a separate group to if you're going with an easy rider, unless you make special requests. But yeah, overall, stunning views. You go up to the border of near China. The mountains are lovely every day. The sun's out. It's literally a perfect trip. And if you love riding, there is nothing more satisfying than just feeling the cool air and the breeze in your face as well. Here's a few of the lads at some of the viewpoints, some of the evening attire, some of the food that we had as well. So a nice bit of grub along the way, karaoke, other viewpoints, other shops, other woving places, some local villagers, kids we met along the way, which was nice. And then here's a funny clip of when we first pulled out of the station. I think it was so I was like, boys, I'm going to video you going off. So Jacob, James goes off, and you've seen Easy Rider right there in the corner as well. And I'm like, David, or is it David? David goes off, right, looking nice and fast. And then there's my final friend, Chris. I'm like, Chris starts to go. And basically, he almost goes into the back of Connor. Oh, sorry, just memories is funny. Classic road safety awareness. Always check left and right. And then here's the master going off as well. No, I'm not master at all. I just kind of went a bit fast to try and show off for the camera, as you do. Not the best filming there, however, moving on. Yes, that was the sort of first few stops. You can kind of see us all lining up, and you have a guide at the front who you follow. That guide has a flag, and he'll take you through the safe routes and going where you need to go and all that sort of stuff. Here's another viewpoint, absolutely stunning, nice to get up on some cool views. And yeah, here's some of the parties in the evening. Yeah, basically lots of drinks going around. And then one of the other days you get to go on a boat tour. So you park up, you go to the boat, you go up and down these mountain ranges, there's lovely water. So there's a lot you get to do in between. It's like ride, activity, lunch, ride, activity, party. That's the whole schedule for the day. And then on the final day, the one where you pay extra, we did some diving into the lake and all that sort of jazz. And then on the final day, we went to this lovely, and the group gets smaller as it goes along because people have different lengths of time that they're staying. But I say the final day, you go to this lovely waterfall like you see on screen right now, and you can follow my Insta and you'll see more of those photos from the trip. And then you get this, lovely waterfall, nice and chill, go on a nice hike, jump in off some cliffs, see a waterfall. It is honestly quite stunning. So I'd say there's so many different factors that make this trip amazing, but definitely the sort of, for me, what made it was staying on the full time and getting the full experience and doing everything. The self-riding, I loved it. Being as part of a group was fantastic, and overall I definitely recommend it. Hopefully that gives you some sort of insight into what the trip was like and what it entails. But yeah, you'll make friends, it's fantastic, and thank you very much for watching and tuning into my deep dive of the Ha Giang Loop. My review will be 5 out of 5. If it was raining, however, I feel like it would not be too fun to do the self-riding version of the loop because it becomes super skiddy, super slippy, and sometimes they do end up getting cancelled if that is the case. However, man, what a trip. The weather made it. If you have any questions about the Ha Giang Loop, please let me know down below. Take care, leave a like and subscribe, and catch you soon.